no one has a winning solution. No one wins at business. It's knowing the wisdom of the crowd will keep us current. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce Julia. Julia is the founder and director of digital strategy at Paperclip. Julia's career in digital marketing spans over 15 years. Dividing her time between Europe and Canada, her career took a deep dive into digital media in 2014 when she joined Catalyst at Mindshare Canada, a Group M and WPP media agency in Toronto. She's managed the accounts of Tier 1 national clients, including Unilever and the University of Toronto. Throughout her career, Julia has built a vast repertoire of skills within the digital space, with a focus and passion for driving performance-based results for her clients. We have worked with Julia we're in our third year now, I think. Are we not?
Yes, year 3. Yes, year 3. Yes.
So we've done 2 wedding shows together, Wedding Co-Markets. We did the summit. We did a big push for the summit. And then at the beginning of this year, we did a brand awareness campaign, which was with the video, which was really great. So we've done a lot of stuff, and it's really paid off for us. So I wanted to bring Julia in to talk about paid social with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, great to have you. I miss you. We've seen each other twice or once in real life, and that's it. Otherwise,
yes.
For those of you just
my back and forth to Toronto is limited these days.
Yeah, just for those who have joined us, Julia lives in Greece, so she's kind of far away. Thank you, Zoom. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to start with a question. If anybody, this is a mastermind, so we're open for questions. This is a discussion. If you have a question, you can just raise your physical hand, or you can raise your Zoom hand if you would like. But I am going to start with, when should someone consider creating a social media ad campaign?
So that's a really good question. I think that's especially relevant for a lot of small businesses, because small businesses specifically, you don't just have money to spend on, brand awareness all the time, or, metrics that are just nice to haves. So you want to have results, and you want to spend your money at a time when you're going to see a big influx of work. So for example, if you have a season, or a month or a couple weeks where you see an influx of clients, or let's say this is like the time that all your competitors are having a sale, or this is when all of your brides come in for their initial inquiry. This is when you want to be out there advertising, because you need to reach the people that wouldn't normally see you otherwise. It's a little bit of a unique market that you're in, of course, as you know, because you don't get to remarket to people year after year. It's, one shot and you're done. So it's especially important for you that every time that the season allows, you're in front of the people that are most relevant to you and are looking for these services or want these services now. But because the dollars are limited, try and focus on the times where you are going to see, where you already have that traffic, because that's going to appeal to the most people. So I don't know, I think Catherine was mentioning that every sort of aspect of wedding planning is sort of done in a different time. So there's some people that come in for, they get their dress first, and then they get their, photographer, and then they get their cake. And so you want to know, when these people are most likely, when the season is that these people are shopping for your services, and that's where you want to be in front of your audience.
Can you,
It's also important to see what your competitors are doing. So if you see like a competitor that's coming in really strong at that point, then that's a good indication that you probably should be too. Sorry.
no, that's good. Can you, whenever I talk to you about doing a campaign, the first thing you always say to me is this brand awareness or is this sales? And
Yeah.
brand awareness, as I see it, is when you're doing brand awareness, chances are you're trying to get a client, like big brands like Nike, you're getting a client for life, right? And to think about the wedding industry, there are some people, I would say more on the photographer side, who are looking for a client for life. But then there are some, really, we're just looking for the sale for that year. And I think a lot
That's
of,
exactly what it is.
we all want to own a brand, but a brand is something very, very specific. And I think what you touched on in terms of, I think part of what we have to figure out is, are you trying to go for the sale, like the wedding co-market? Like for me, that's like, boom, trying to sell tickets. And then as the wedding co, as a brand, I'm trying to get clients for life. So I'm trying to get clients like members, but the wedding co-market is that sales. So I think it's always the first question you ask me is this an awareness or is this sales within a specific period of time? Can you speak to that? Just you were touching on that. Can you
Yes. So in your case, you have two markets, like you have two audiences. You have an audience of, industry people that are not going to go anywhere, that are going to be here year after year. And then you also have an audience of the brides that changes every single year. And I think that's what I always want clarity on is who are we targeting now, basically, because when you have a bride as your audience in this specific industry, you want to focus on your lead generation or your sales or an actual conversion point that's going to get you a bottom line result, because you don't have money to spend for nothing or for awareness when these people might not be there next year.
Yeah.
That awareness is going to be fleeting. So as far as awareness goes, you do need brand building and awareness, but that could be done in your organic efforts, which you probably mostly already do, through organic social and, maybe some influencer marketing, this kind of thing that builds brand awareness. But as far as your paid strategy, that should definitely focus on conversions, or if you don't have a digital conversion point, then at least you can do brand awareness, but it should be in that period of time that it's most effective for you.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that. I think it's important that when we are thinking about our business on a whole, do we have one-off clients, or are you actually creating a brand? Because I think there are many of you in that brand, but there are some of you that aren't. It's a one-off, basically it's a one-off sale. So I just wanted to clarify that. So what are some of the questions you would ask someone if they were to hire you to help them with a campaign?
So one of the most important things is the goal. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? That is, I mean, everybody wants a sale, okay? But there's a process for that, and not everybody's gonna do a sale online. Some of you might have an e-shop or are able to sell your products online, but most of the time you have some sort of a nurturing process that happens offline. So your conversion point would be things like a form that somebody fills out, submitting their email address or a contact form. It could be something like that. So we want to know what your goals are, what your conversion points are. And then the other thing that you want to consider is your budget. And as much as I could recommend a budget, the thing about digital is that it is extremely scalable. You can scale a budget to what you needed to do. If you have $500, we can spend $500. If you have $5,000, we can spend $5,000 too. But you're gonna do a lot more. You're gonna do a lot less with 500 or with 5,000. And I can make recommendations, for example, on what best to do with how much you have. So if you have a number in your head about how much you're comfortable in spending, even if it's just for now until you see some results coming in, and then you could reevaluate when you're ready to spend more, then that is also an important thing to know, because there's a lot we can spend that money on. No matter what, it's going to give you results. The other thing to consider with the budget is that with digital, especially when you're first starting out, a lot of the performance, a lot of the time the performance improves as you spend. So we need to have data in order to optimize for results so that you get the best results and the costs go down. That takes time. That means that you're spending money. The more money you have to spend in the shorter amount of time means you learn faster. So if you spend more in a shorter period of time, you're going to learn much faster and get the cheaper results that you're looking for later. If you don't, and you want to spend like $10 a day, you can, but I'm not going to learn anything very fast, and you're not going to see improvements in your results very quickly either.
So can I just sort of maybe give an example of that with us? So when we do the Wedding Co market, so what we do is we start, I think, 2 months out, right? Even though we sell most of our tickets just before, but we start a bit further out to get data to understand what's working, correct? To a certain point?
That, and not only data. So when we first started, we didn't really know when like your peak buying period was gonna be. So we're testing when that's happening, the first year, let's say. After that, we are running ads early, not just for we know that the results come in later, but there's also an attribution funnel. So we want like those audiences that are clicking on your website and then going off. We want to build a remarketing list. We want to build like an awareness list, because those are the people at the last week or two, those are the people that are more likely to convert. So that gets built early on, and then we remarket to those people at the last. We are always remarketing to those people, but those lists grow in the last 2 weeks, especially.
So is it fair to say that if you're interested in paid social media, especially because of this industry, like most of you are going to have a very specific time when you're going to put that paid marketing out, that first year is a real investment, right? In terms of understanding how the data and the conversions and everything works, right? So that's so to think of, don't think about the first time you're doing this because as the years come, you're going to get better and better at it. So it's almost like you should have like a 3-year plan for this, or do you know what I mean? Like to really to understand that the first part is understanding, and then it's fine tuning it as you go, right?
Well, it depends. Every business is different. Every business is different. You know, with some businesses, depending on the budget and depending on their business model, I might see results, like actionable results and insights in the first few days or the first week, and that's gonna like gradually improve. And then we're gonna try and, scale that and maintain that cost. Whereas with some industries like yours, for example, we need to, we spend that once a year. So every year we're gonna have a different, some industries will be always on. I mean, I have clients that are always on pulling leads, like, 365 days a year, pulling leads, and we're always learning, right? So it really, really depends. The how long your learnings are is going to depend on how long you're gonna spend for, how much money you're gonna spend, and also your buying cycle. Like, I mean, if your products are very expensive, these the decision points are going to be longer. If it's sort of a less expensive product, then it's easier for somebody to buy or convert. It sort of depends on it depends on a lot of things. You can't really say like 2 or 3 years. It just depends.
Well,
There is going to be a learning phase though.
I just know, like, one of the reasons that and 1 year, I mean, before I hired Julia, I took this on and I like analyzed every piece of data that came in over like a 3-month period. And that, with my limited knowledge, but that is one of the reasons why I brought you on, is that even within that 3 months or that 3 years, the fine tuning that can go on, like you can change the campaign based on because you're watching it day to day, my campaign, and fine tuning it. And that is what I found is the most difficult thing about, because that's not my knowledge base, having someone do it for me was such a gift to constantly maintain it, constantly refine it was really why I had somebody come in and do it. So
yes, and I mean, it's also important to like the setup of it, the creative, what we learn, all the different audiences that we test. Like you have to have things to change and to tweak, because some people don't. Some people just have one audience and then one creative, and then what are you going to really change or adjust to make it work better?
So that being said, can you just talk a bit about what some of the items that people might want to accomplish? I mean, I had this little, are we looking for followers? Are we looking for site visits? Are we looking to sell products? Are we selling services? Are we trying to get subscribers to our newsletter? Like, the options for what the actions that you're actually trying to get people to take are like vast.
So I think that for small businesses specifically, it's important to steer clear of those vanity metrics, is what I call them. Engagement is the worst one. Engagement gives you nothing. It doesn't even give you awareness. And Facebook did a study on that. Engagement does not equal awareness. They're two different things.
You mean when someone just likes it?
When somebody likes something, it is not equal to awareness. Right. People could be aware without liking. Usually, if you're optimizing an ad for engagement, what happens is that ad gets shown to the people who are most likely to like or comment on an ad or do a video, and it gets shown several times until they perform that engagement, which can become annoying. And that's not what you want to do. So definitely not engagement. Followers you can't do on Instagram anyways. Followers can come though, just by running your ad in general for a metric that's more important to you. I would definitely recommend, if you don't have an on-site conversion point, to optimize for clicks or landing page views, which would at least give you a remarketing audience to work with. And just optimize, focus on something that's meaningful to you, that's actually going to get you some leads and some results.
Can you talk about conversion points a bit? What is that?
So that could be, I think I touched on this briefly before, but it could be anything on your website or any action that you find to be meaningful. So it could be somebody who submitted a contact form request. You can also do like lead generation ads on Facebook that don't take people off site. They don't take people out of Facebook to your website. It just populates a form on Facebook that people can submit. The information is pre-populated, and they hit a button and you get basically a list of contacts. So that could be a conversion point. A conversion, if you have an e-shop, it could be a purchase, or it could be an add to cart. If you don't get a lot of purchases, I would recommend optimizing for a conversion point that happens more often, so that you can work with more data. You have more data to work with. The more data you have to work with, the more informed decisions you can make.
So give us an example of data.
So we want to know which audiences take those actions best. We want to know what ad creative is performing the best. We want to know, who is performing those actions that are valuable to you, and when and where. And I mean, data is everything.
Can you talk to us a bit about testing? Like, I know we in the past, and I think we might do it again this year, we've tested like different creative. So at the beginning of the ad cycle for the Wedding Co market, we will put out 3 different ads, we test them, and then once it comes down to when we know the conversions happen the most, we sort of narrow it down to 1 ad and we just push that one. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so testing is important, like not only for your future campaigns, but also for the current one. It's also another way to optimize your campaigns. And what I see a lot of the time is, for example, I might be running like a carousel ad and a banner ad and a video ad, all for the same audience. And one of them will perform much better than the other 2, in which case I can turn a few off, and what'll happen is the budget will reallocate to the one that performs best, which it already does to some extent, but I can also control that, right? So the other thing about that is testing what works better with what audience, because a lot of the time what I see is different creative works better for different audiences. So with one audience, it'll be your banner ad that works the best, and with a different audience, it'll be the carousel ad that works the best. And that's important to know too. Also, different creatives work better for different conversion optimizations. So if you are optimizing for like clicks or landing page views, video tends to do really well. If you're optimizing for conversions, I've seen lately that static tends to do better. So these kinds of things are also important to always testing, always having different options, so that you know what'll work best for your clients and what's gonna work best for you in your future campaigns.
Yeah, and can you just describe, give an example of some of the different audiences? What do you mean?
Okay, so you could have an interest audience, which is like you put in some demographic information and some, interests that they have that are related to your product. So engaged, recently engaged, bride, all of these like interests that come up. But those are usually the broadest audience, but also not the best performing. You want to use remarketing audiences, website visitors, people who have engaged with your social media profile, email list lookalike audiences. So lookalike audiences of all of your owned audiences are really important too.
Can you just clarify what engaged with your social media profile? What is that?
Yeah, you can create an audience based on people who have engaged with your social accounts.
See, I don't know how to do that. Julia does.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm going to assume
It is one of your audiences.
like when I started sort of dabbling in advertising, all I did was the interests. Like it goes so far beyond just on Facebook clicking what those interests are. And even so far beyond now, you know, the demographic, right? Like Toronto, Guelph, whatever. I know we use that, but there's so many more options now in terms of audiences, correct?
Oh, well, yeah, there's a lot of options with audiences. Lookalikes are really, really powerful. I definitely recommend leveraging that. What happens when you use interest audiences on Facebook is that now, especially with, you know, what's been happening with data privacy and everything, Facebook is you're able to know a lot less about people than you used to. So those interest audiences are not actually as powerful as they used to be. Whereas those lookalike audiences are based on data that Facebook has about you that they don't have to share. So it's really important to leverage that. Like you can use, I mean, Facebook will know things about your audience that you can't pinpoint, and they can.
Does anybody have a question at this point? I know there are a lot of terms being used here, and if you need any of the terms, and there we go, Antonia, clarified. Speak up, because if you're still
You're on mute.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. So Julie, you mentioned Facebook a lot. I find for me, I get absolutely no traction whatsoever on Facebook. It's,
Okay.
you know, I get nothing. Like Facebook is kind of useless for me. All of my, I guess any traction I get is through Instagram. Now, granted, I put a lot more effort into Instagram than I do for Facebook. But I guess my question for that is are all the points you're making when you mention Facebook, are those relevant to Instagram as well?
Yeah, so, and I'm sorry about this. I should probably have clarified this before too. It's the same platform. Facebook and Instagram are the same thing. So what happens when you run ads you can select which platform you run ads on. But for example, like I can target people that target people that have engaged with your Instagram account, but that are currently on Facebook, and they'll see your ad on Facebook, for example. I mean, your audience, it's not really about which platform they're on. It's just about who they are. And you need to reach them wherever they are. It doesn't matter. You might think that Facebook has no traction for you, maybe not organically, and that could be correct. But your audience might be everywhere, and you can't discount that until you actually test it. Does that help answer your
Thank
question?
you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where, again, this testing, like, it's so important, this testing. And this is why I sort of keep bringing up, because if some of the members really only want to advertise at a certain period of time, you know, you have to think of this first year as an investment, right? To start to gather that, even though everything changes.
To see gather the information. Yeah. Yes.
I do think a lot of everybody on here has a specific time when they would do the real sort of push. So again, maybe invest some money now, but remember that investment is really going to pay off next year. Right. And here's the thing, we're going to see an uprise in weddings quickly, but that's going to plateau again, right? So we have to keep thinking a couple years out, like get this information, because we're going to see an upswing, because everybody's going to get out of the starting gate.
I would also plan to be ready for that upswing, because I mean, I know I'm in Greece, like, but I've seen that things happen here, like 3 or 4 weeks before they happen in Ontario anyway, like with this COVID situation. So now we've opened up pretty much everything here. And like everybody's getting baptized, everybody's getting married, like everybody's doing it all at the same time. Everything's booked up because everybody's been holding off all this time to do it. And I'm one of those people too, you know? So it's just everyone's doing it together. So be ready. I would wholeheartedly suggest you have a campaign like ready to go for when you don't know when it's going to be, but have something ready for when these restrictions get lifted, because once they do, it's going to be like instant. People want to get married now.
That's really
Next
interesting.
week.
So like in
Yeah.
a couple of weeks or in the next month, try it, right? Like put a little bit money behind some advertising and see. I also am I also keep saying to everybody, because it's going to explode a bit, make sure you're doing what you want to actually be doing, not just taking whatever you get. And creating a campaign might really focus that, right? Doing what you want to do. So
I think we have a question.
oh, great. It's Jonathan. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question. Hi. I just in terms of like budget and like campaign, what's a healthy budget for a campaign?
Oh, that's so loaded, that question. It just really depends. It really depends. How much does your product cost? Where is your audience? Are you targeting just like the GTA, or is it all of Canada? You know, there's a lot of questions that are involved with like setting a budget. How long is your campaign going to be? And that is also going to depend on how long your decision cycle is. So a lot of questions about like an ideal budget. But what I would recommend is you kind of think about what a lead is worth to you. Let's say, let's start with that. How much is it worth to you to get a lead? Are you happy with a lead for $100 or $5 or $20? Of course, the cheaper the better, but I mean, what would actually make it worth it, right? So think about that and then work backwards. Like if a lead is worth $100 to you, you can't spend $100. Okay, you need to spend like for one lead. You know, you need to spend like $500 or $1,000 so that you can start getting like 5 of those $100 leads to actually see what's working best. You know, so try and think about that maybe first, and that could be a good helpful way of determining how much you're comfortable spending.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's really important. Your price, like how much you actually, how valuable that lead is. Like what's that cost? That's really important. Robin, do you have a question?
I do have a question. I've heard two sides to this, so I wanted to get your opinion. When you're doing your programming and you're picking your dates, I've heard from some that you should run the campaign for 24-hour cycles so that it can get to enough people. But I've also heard that you should study more carefully the exact days and times that people come to your Instagram and come to your Facebook, and invest the same amount of money in those short, compact periods of time. And I wanted to know, in your experience and in your opinion, is it better to strategically invest in shorter periods of time, hoping that you'll target more people, or have a broader time frame?
I mean, Facebook, when you advertise, it has a very good algorithm. So what I tend to do is let Facebook optimize as much as possible without micromanaging things, because my guess is as good as yours. Like, I mean, just because people do things organically at a certain time, it does give a good indication, but you're not always targeting these people, right? Like the audience that you're targeting is much broader than your organic audience, right? So you want to reach as many people the cheapest way possible. I mean, if you limit those times when you're going to be advertising, you might lose the cheapest impression that you can get for that. You know, that person still might be there at 2 a.m, you know, and you can target them, or you can't, and you can focus your targeting on at 7 p.m. when it's crazy and everybody's bidding at the same time, and you know it's expensive. I would let sort of Facebook do its thing when it comes to that.
Okay, super. And may I ask a second question? Well,
Yeah.
so the other question I had was about when you generate an email list. So say you have your evites and you pull all of those emails and you put them through your audience targeting. Do you think that this is a beneficial tool in order to reach those, if not other people outside of that?
Yeah, so definitely target the people on your email list, especially the ones that are interested in your product. But that tends to be limited. So it might not serve that many people. What the best use of that email list for advertising purposes is to create a lookalike audience out of it and target them.
Okay, super, thank you.
As well.
Oh.
Yes, sorry.
So basically what you're saying is, like, say I have, and I think we do this, is you take my newsletter list and then you put it in and then create the lookalike from that. Right?
Yeah. And it's a very, very valuable lookalike because this is your prime audience.
Yeah.
And Facebook has a lot of data about them that you cannot guess. So they'll target people that are like them in ways that you wouldn't otherwise be able to.
So can you just walk us through, if someone was to hire you to manage a campaign, what does that look like, and how do you charge for that?
There's typically a setup fee that ranges depending on what we're setting up and how much, how many channels, or also if it's e-commerce or not. And then there's a management fee, which has like a minimum monthly fee, no matter what your budget is per calendar month that media is in market. So that's typically what it is. There's a minimum fee, and then that changes to a percentage based, depending on whichever is higher.
So for example, if I came to you and said, I have $500 to spend on a 2-month campaign, what does that, and that's all I said to you, what would you say to me? And how much would you charge?
Is that your total budget, or is that your media budget?
That is my total budget, and it includes my setup fee. And I
don't think I'd be able to help you.
Yeah. I think that's really important that people know that.
Yeah.
So what's your baseline? If I said I have,
So I mean, I would put aside, at least almost, if you have a 2-month campaign, I would put aside at least like $1,000 to set it up and manage it in the fees. The setup fee though is a one-time thing. So if you come back, then it's not going to be the setup fee anymore. It's just going to be your monthly management fee, which is a lot lower.
Again, I'm hot on this, like, invest in the first year, because it does get cheaper, right?
Yes, it gets cheaper. Like the setup is a bit of a commitment. You need to want to dive in. But I mean, it's well worth it, because this is putting your pixel on the page, creating all your audiences, setting up your account, your billing, whatever needs to be done as far as setup is concerned, your conversion points and this kind of thing. And then once that's all done and you're just running campaigns, it just becomes your management fee, and that is much simpler. And that, we can talk about strategy, we talk about reporting at the end of it. I optimize your campaigns, this kind of thing. So that's with that.
I think this, can we just touch on that decision cycle again? Because I have to, like, I didn't, like right now we're going to open up and decision cycle is going to be really short, right? Especially here because we only have, so if someone is like, I want to get married this summer, like that's a short decision cycle, but realistically, the decision cycles in the wedding industry can be very long.
Yes, normally I think they're really long, probably a year, at 6 months to a year, probably I'd assume, for most things. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. But I think now, like, it's a special time.
Yeah.
People have been waiting to do this. When they start opening up venues and allowing public gatherings, I would definitely be ready to advertise services, and you might not even need to because you might just be really busy anyway. Just more to get it up on your competition.
I think this is really interesting too, because I mean, paid is great, but that's a really interesting point right now in terms of everybody's organic social, is that when this comes up, you should have an organic social media ad campaign ready, right? Like have something, like what is it you want to sell over the next 6 months? And create, because you can create your own organic campaign instead of just sort of doing this. Create a strategy. I mean, the editorial co-marketing initiative is really about that. So Julia, we've started this initiative where some people are working on innovation for 2022, and by the end of June they will have deliverables to us that we will then send out for an entire 6 months based on something they want. That's an organic marketing campaign, and you can do that. It's really, I think that's really fascinating for right now, is to think of the next couple of weeks, think of a marketing campaign, organic or paid, that you want to put out for this influx. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I think with organic, you definitely, I mean, on social, it's increasingly becoming pay to play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, organic's gonna help you a bit, but especially when you have paid also, it'll help sort of solidify your, I'm not sure I really suggest, I think, going with a paid campaign too, for that period. You're gonna just reach so many more people. And our organic can be very expensive and time consuming for the effort.
That's the thing. I mean, it's interesting. The more you spend, like if the less, like if I was to pay more, I pay you to do my media campaign, so I have more time to spend on other things. If someone decides to do their own paid social media, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take a lot of time.
There's a learning curve. Yeah, there's a big learning curve.
So you have to be really aware of your time. If you have the time to micromanage your paid social media campaign, that's great. But if you want to spend your time doing other stuff, that's when it's better to invest, to have somebody else do it. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure also, like, how many people do their own organic social media or versus pay somebody to do the organic social media for them.
How many people actually pay? You mean pay someone like you to?
Like, how many of you? Yeah, not, well, like me or like Megan. You know, how many people have a social media person? Like, do you, as business owners, do you pay somebody to do your organic, or do you do that yourself? You know, and I feel as though like paying for organic isn't okay, it's important, but it's also like less effective than paying somebody for paid, because you're getting in front of a lot less people with organic.
Okay, so
Sorry, I think we have a question.
I just want to clarify one thing, Story, and then I'll get to you. I don't mean paying for organic. I just mean these guys coming up, like really being intentionable about what they're putting out in the next few months on their organic. Right? I just think this is a really interesting take.
Yes.
To be really intentional. If you're not doing the paid right now, in the next few months, being really intentional about what you are putting out there, because it's not just this. Like, I'm going to use Catherine as an example. She has a dress line that's come out, and it's just like, for the next 3 months, this is my schedule of how I'm going to release the dresses on the thing, right? And she does that. So I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't saying a paid organic, just
Yes.
be very aware of what you're putting out right now, because of this explosion, and the sales cycle is going to be short, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be much shorter. Mm-hmm.
Story, did you have a question?
I do. Julie, in your experience, when you're paying, what seems to do better? Is it just promoting your amazing quality of your product or your brand or your experience? Or when you're paying, is it better to have some kind of special that you're offering? Like limited time offer this, or discount this, or, I mean.
When it comes to conversion results, offers tend to do pretty well. I can't say they don't, they do. That said though, I mean, you can do really well promoting your work, also the quality of your work. It kind of depends, and it would be interesting to test that. It's difficult for me, and that's going to be my answer almost to everything, because it's one of the things I love so much about digital marketing is that I don't have to guess. The data can tell me, what does better, and every business, every industry is going to be a little bit different. But I can say that offers, like if you do have an offer, or you want to give an offer, it's definitely tends to perform well for conversions if you do have an offer.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem.
So if I was to decide I was going to do my own paid media campaign, what would you say the top things I need to think about?
You need to tag your website, whether it's, the Google tag or the Facebook pixel. Definitely add that to your website. Try and set up those conversion points as well. Use your existing assets. If you have followers or engaged audiences or email lists, leverage that stuff as much as possible. And look professional. Don't come out with, bad quality photos or poorly written ad copy. Get the quality there that aligns with your brand. I think that's the top.
Can you just, and again, I'm sure all of you know this, just go over the pixelating of your website, what that does. I just want to make sure people.
That helps track like the people that visit your website, and that's going to help you know what they do on your website.
And what is that?
And it feeds into like Facebook or Instagram or Google or whatever you're running for paid media. It feeds into the data so that you can make better decisions.
So basically, it's like it's something behind the scenes on the website. It's like a code that you put into your website, right?
Yes, it's a code that you put on your website, and every platform has a different one. Google has its own, Facebook/Instagram has its own, LinkedIn has its own. Everybody has its own code, and that that is going to allow the data from the website to link back into the platform, so that you can see what's being done, and not only so you can optimize, but also so that you can do remarketing.
Right. Do we have any other, we're 4 minutes out from our 11, what time is it with you, Julia? What time is it there?
I think there's another 5 minutes.
Anything else you want to add that you think is, that they should know?
I don't know. There's so much. It really, I don't know. Does any, let's continue taking questions. I feel like that's the most useful thing to do.
Does anybody
Anyone else?
question about the terms that Julia's been, because I gotta tell you, some of them I'm like, and I've been working with her, so. And has anybody done a campaign? Oh, Kim. Can you just unmute yourself?
Mute.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. I just have a question about, in the past, I have used people for social media for help, quite a few times, actually. There's things that you're mentioning that I already have. I have the Pixel. I have all of these things on my website. I can't read the data. I mean, I'm a little better, but I'm really not that great. And I don't have anybody helping me right now, but I guess I'm kind of in this void of being a small business. I've tried it. I've spent up to $1,500 a month, got nothing out of it. You know, backed off, went back to magazines. Now I'm sort of out of the magazines. And it's just, I guess my question is quantifying how you quantify the success of what you're doing with social media. I mean, am I asking?
With paid social, with paid, right?
Yeah.
With
So
paid.
I'm always looking for the sale. Like that's my, I mean,
Right.
brand awareness.
Well, that's the way I would quantify it. Like I would never run like brand awareness or engagement or anything like that. You need to focus on your sales. So if if you can't, if your sales are expensive, like if you're selling a wedding dress, you're not going to make the sale online. So we're not going to do sales in this case, but maybe an appointment, a free consultation, sign up on your website, like, and we want to count those, and your campaign is going to be successful for those types of conversions. And then after that, it's on you to close it.
Yeah.
Like you need to, there's only so much we can do with paid. You take those inquiries, make sure you follow up with them, and you close those leads. And then if you sell even 1 or 2 dresses from your campaign, then you're hopefully, breaking even, if not more, much more. So
yeah, I get where I guess what I'm saying is I haven't had very good luck with the people that I've hired to help me. I can.
Well, if you need me, I'm here. Send me an email. I'll drop my email here for everybody and my website in case
Can I
you
ask
need to get in touch.
a question, Kim?
Yeah.
When you did that, did you do the option that they could literally make an appointment with you?
I did, and there was also like following up on the like, I mean, my followers went up and things changed. Things did change. And I was told, that it's time in, like you have to give it enough time. But as a small business, if you're spending $1,000 a month, and you don't feel you're getting anything out of it.
You didn't get any results spending $1,000 a month. You didn't get leads.
I didn't get a lot. And again, this was early days. And when you don't know, you don't know. When you don't know what you're looking at as far as the information given to you, the person giving me the information was telling me, you know, things were changing, things were moving, but I only see that when I close a dress, or
Right.
like when
Yeah,
I
of
sell a
course.
dress. And so, you know, I just find the whole paying for social, and I'm on this call, so I'm agreeing that it's a necessity, but sometimes I mean, my experience of the two that I've had, I didn't get a lot out of it. And so I'm a little gun shy.
So I think sometimes too, there's a gap between the data you collect, right? Because you probably got new followers and what to do next, right? Because if you got more followers, you know, how do you take that paid media campaign and put it into your organic? Because you got new followers to keep them interested in what's going on. Like, I think the follow-up is really hard, you know, to take the data that you get, and then what is that follow-up to close that sale or to at least get on the phone. I think that's where some issues happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some challenges that are going to happen with that inquiry lead and the follow up. Like there's definitely only so much the paid media can do with certain types of businesses. But I mean, you should. I mean, I'd hope that you would get a decent amount of leads. Maybe not like crazy, not $5 a lead, but I would hope at least $50 or $80 a lead would be like a maybe a good spot for you to get like, and I mean that type of lead that would be interested in a contact and a consultation, or it might also work to I don't know, offer something for free. I don't know what it could be, but it could be offering like, well, a free consultation is usually like the best example I can find at the moment, but to get people talking to you, it's an easier next step. So people will talk to you after they submit their details. So I don't know, it takes some thinking what best to offer and what the best lead thing is. I'd probably do some lead gen forms with you know, so that they can call you afterwards if they need to, but you need to get more results. For $1,000 is not a little bit of money either. It's a good
And it was
amount of spend.
$1,000 US.
Yeah, that's.
Let me tell you, it's all in US dollars. I know that.
Oh.
Facebook is.
That's a good amount of spend. I don't know. Like, I know that there are a lot of people out there that don't really know what they're doing. I don't know about your account. I haven't seen it. It would be nice to have a look, but there's a lot of people out there that really don't know what they're doing and say they do. It's kind of sad, but I mean, that's why I have work, you know, unfortunately. It's kind of like, it's one of those things where a lot of people kind of learn on their own and they don't always get all of the best practice or are able to implement campaigns the way they should. You know, I hope it's something like that and it's not, you know, not anything on your end that's causing the issue. So, I mean, I don't know. The only thing I can say is to keep trying, but there's definitely good leads to be had using paid social, paid search. I do both. So there's good leads to be had out there.
Okay, well, we're over our hour. I think
we're over our hour, yes.
I do think one of the interesting things is if people are thinking about this, is really think about the goal. Like to leave today and to just, if you are thinking about playing with paid social, think about right now what your goal is, and then, you know, go from there. I think that's, I know we're in a bit of a funny time, but it's all going to start to level out at some point. And So think about what your goals are for the next year and then think if you want to put some money behind that. So any other questions before we go? I'll have the recording up on the website. I'll let you know when that is up.